Hi. I have chocolate for you.
Oh, thank you.
You're so welcome. Welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. You bring it in. Bring it in. Yeah, of course. Bring it in. Of course. You can have a seat, and I'll give you the chocolate after you. Does anybody need a pen? So the cards, there should be room to write on if you want to take notes. Here you go.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Would you like some chocolate? Thank you. And you get a piece too.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Hi, I have chocolate for you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We have a couple more people coming. I'm going to put chocolate on their seats and we'll get started. But I want them to feel welcome when they walk in, even though welcome. Did you get a piece? Did you get a piece?
Have a nice time.
Thank you, love. All right. Yeah. Hi, welcome.
No, I'm not here. I will be.
Good. We look forward to your coming. Hi, everybody. Oh, gosh, this is not. Come down. At least come down 2 spots. Come down. Yeah, come at least down. We got to close in the circle a little bit. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, you get multiple chocolates. Thank you. You got it? Sorry about that. I need my timekeeper so we don't run late. I'm Susan Simmons. Thank you so much for coming. I'm really excited to have a discussion with you guys and explore what we're talking about when we talk about facilitating experiences in games. Before we get started, I just want to get a sense of who is in a global corporation. Raise your hand if you work in a global corporation. Okay. Anybody else? How about large company? Okay. Small company, small, mid-size? A few. You're both, right. Startup, right. So what I picked up on yesterday was that we have people who are working in a very big range of types of organizations. And what I wanted to talk about today, really, we can apply no matter what type of business you work in. You can actually apply it outside of gamification and exercises. You can apply it to just interacting with colleagues and even with family members. So that's my goal, is that you have something to take away no matter what size organization you work in. If I'm too fast or I use a word that is unfamiliar, please let me know. And this is about us sharing and working together to co-create this model for facilitating experiences and games. And the model has 2 parts. It is a facilitator mindset of deep curiosity, as well as 5 debriefing questions. And most of what I'm going to talk about comes from the book Open to Outcomes, and by Jacobson and Rudy, and there's my copy. It's very dog-eared, lots of, I use it all the time. I love this. It's my favorite book on facilitation. And I've been collecting books for about 10 years. And this is the first one that, for me, really helps get to transformational change for participants. So I love it. I hope you will too. So what do I mean when I'm using the word facilitate? Because that word, there's really not a common definition yet. What I'm meaning when I talk about facilitate comes back to what Ralph Yirikian was talking about yesterday, about a game or an exercise is a tool, and it's not enough by itself. That in order to really engage our colleagues, employees, family members, wherever we are using games or exercises, people also really need to feel heard. And so that's the first part of what I mean by facilitate. The second part of facilitate, I mean using questions to help people reflect, to deepen their learning. Okay? That's where I'm working from today. Facilitating also means lots of other things. This is what I'm talking about today. Okay? Cool. So we're going to jump right in with an exercise to establish a baseline. And the exercise is called selfish listening. And it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And that's good. I want to get you out of your comfort zone just a little bit. Nothing crazy, but just a little bit out of your comfort zone. So if everyone will stand up, we're going to drift. We're going to just walk to the open spaces. Just move to the open spaces. Start. Just move to the open spaces. All right, stop. And find a partner next to you, near you. I wish I could be your partner. Did we have another single person? Is there another? Yeah, yes, okay. So you guys are together. Another time.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so you've got a pairs. We need one of you to be A and one of you to be B. So A's, raise your hand. Great. Wonderful. All right, so we have our A's and we have our B's. Now, take 15 minutes to introduce, 15 minutes, listen to me, 15 seconds to introduce yourself to each other. Just the two of you, introduce yourself. Okay. Stop. Everybody, stop. Thank you. Thank you for introducing yourselves. So what we're going to do now is A is our speaker. And our speaker is going to take 1 minute. When I say start, the speaker will take 1 minute to talk about a project that they have going on. A real project. It can be at home or at work. I don't care where, but something you're really working on. You can be thinking about it for a second while I talk to the listener. So B's, where are my B's? Okay, you're my listeners. Now this is going to be the really uncomfortable part. Oh my God. I want you to listen selfishly. What do I mean by that? Think about somebody who annoys you at work or a teenager who's not listening to you and that irritates you because they won't listen. What do they do? Or even better, what do you know in your heart of hearts that you do when you're distracted or thinking about something else when someone is speaking? Okay? You don't have to tell me if you're pretending of somebody else or if it's really what you do. You don't have to tell me that. But think about what that is and behave that way when you're listening, okay? So, are you looking at your phone? What are you doing? Are you flipping through papers? All right? So, back to our A's. Our speakers, are you all ready? Do you have a project in mind? Okay? So 1 minute. Speakers speak. Listeners are quiet. You're just listening. Selfishly. Go. Are you listening selfishly? How selfish are you being? Be really selfish. Okay, stop. Stop. All right, welcome back, everybody. So, listeners, now you have to respond. You have 30 seconds where you respond to what you've just heard. How can you help that person? What can you add? Do you have anything? You've got 30 seconds where you now have to speak back to that speaker about their project. Go. Okay, stop. Thank you, everyone. Let's have a seat. So did anybody notice did that feel awkward?
Oh, that's
So which part felt awkward?
the first part, listening.
Listening selfishly felt, embarrassing?
Yes, because we just introduced and she told something about herself, and it was kind of the person that you start to get interesting, and then you said that you should be interested in the story that she is telling, so it was really hard to not pretend not listening.
Yeah. That's great.
Actually, this exercise makes you think about things that you haven't thought before. Whenever you're distracted with something, whenever someone is speaking, actually, it's something really bad, but you don't realize it because you have so many things to do at the moment. You think this is more important at this stage, but this exercise makes you think about this twice, and I hope that it will change the minds of the participants.
And for you, excuse me. Oh gosh, excuse me. So for you, where might you use that or change something in your real life? Where might you use that?
When someone is, comes up to you with a question or a project that she or he needs some opinions or needs your involvement in it, or something like this, and whenever someone is talking to you, say, yeah, okay, I'm listening to you, but you're into something else. Now you need to focus on the person.
Or maybe you say, I don't have time now, or I'm not in a mood.
Yeah, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's an option too, right? Yeah, that I really want to give you the attention you deserve. Can you give me 5 minutes so that I can finish this to come back to it? That's an interesting point. I love all that. So how did it feel if you were the speaker to have someone not listening at all? How did that feel?
Disappointing.
Frustrating, disappointing. Oh, your face. Oh, so sad. Oh.
It's really difficult because you are talking with enthusiasm, you are talking about your project, and somebody is
Yeah.
Indifferent.
Indifferent. Yeah.
I think like if we go deeper even, at some point I think people feel rejected and disconnected.
Yeah.
And this is the most scary place for a person to be, like we are as humans,
Yeah.
rejected and kind of this like ruins connection.
Yeah. Okay.
Opposite of recognition and appreciation.
Yes, exactly. Like they were talking about yesterday, and the need for people to feel recognized. It's the opposite. That's a great point, and it's great.
Maybe feeling
Less important. Like you don't value them, right?
I think you are not in the priority of that person.
Yeah, and
I think that with the all these technologies now that we are using, it has become more difficult to concentrate on when you talk to people, because you have too much information coming your way.
yeah.
I don't know. There's this WhatsApp messages and Viber messages and Facebook and this and that, and only the notifications that come up on your phone. If it's there, it's already a big distraction.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you can't concentrate on what people are talking. And then a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Your email and all this stuff.
Mobile.
Yeah.
All of it.
Looking on mobile phones.
Yep.
So I think it was easier before in like not the digital era to concentrate than it is now.
So we have to make a special effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the speech, I caught myself asking her questions to involve her.
Oh, as the speaker, you started asking her questions to try and draw her in. Oh, interesting.
Me telling her about the project, I just started asking her questions about the thing, about the topic I was talking.
Oh, very cool.
I did these two.
Yeah, you did that as well? So we've got strategies around that, right? We work on that. Yeah, because it happens all the time. We're faced with that, and we do it. Did anybody secretly, if you don't have to tell me, but did anybody use a selfish listening strategy that you know you do?
A small story. When I just became a small team supervisor, I used to listen to an employee, but I was doing something and I was saying like yes, 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 but at some point I was disconnected, and then I see that he's looking at me and expecting the answer, but I didn't listen to answer.
Right.
And after that it was not very good, but there was a time that my team members, they knew that when I'm saying I'm not listening really. That's why I just changed my active listening expressions and face. But that was
That's great. Yeah, our colleagues
started to make jokes like she's not listening to you. Just
it's our colleagues and our children know us well, right? They know exactly what's going on.
Engage them.
Right. Exactly. So we've got a model we're going to be developing today that's going to take us through, and it's the facilitator mindset of deep curiosity and the 5 debriefing questions. And they come from this book, Opened Outcomes, and I've sort of set this up before. Right now, what we're going to do is describe what a game or an exercise looks like when it's going incredibly well. What are the players? What are the players or the participants in the game or exercise? If you just walk in the room, what are they doing? How do you know that it's going exquisitely well? They are deeply engaged and learning a lot. What do they look like? What's happening?
They are excited.
Asking the right questions, maybe.
Taking notes.
Yeah, asking
Body language.
What is the body language? What is the facial expression?
icon, curiosity.
Smile. Your smile.
Yeah. Smile or
Can be thinking, yes, thinking more.
How do you know they're thinking about the game and not thinking about something else?
Yeah, maybe eye contact discussions.
We talk to each other. Conversation. We are engaging in the discussion.
That like they are working on something. They are working on the task.
They are not into their phone.
Yeah.
No phones.
No distractions.
No distractions. In fact, think of teenagers playing a game. You can't pry them away from the game, right? Like,
No way.
no way.
They don't listen. They cannot listen.
There's noise. Usually, or there's either a lot of noise or it's completely silent.
Yes.
Right? It depends on the game, right? They're totally absorbed, right? How are they interacting? If it's a group event, are they? We've kind of talked about this, that they're. Yeah, it's together.
Yeah, if they play in the teams, then
Attentive.
Yeah.
You feel the dynamics, like the group
Having
dynamics, teamwork.
conversations.
Yeah, group conversations and
sometimes you see them running around the space.
oh, I love it.
Yeah, if it's a quest or something or whatever.
They're not moving slowly. Whatever they're doing it fast. Group conversations and group dynamics at play. Great. Okay. You all started to get at this a little bit. Oh, wait, I jumped ahead. Okay. So what's really interesting here is that you all have started to describe exactly what game designers know has to be. You don't keep playing the game. You don't get to do all of this unless they build it so that you are fully engaged. You feel optimistic about the outcome, like the time you're going to spend is going to be worth it, right? Because it takes time to learn a new game. So from very early in the game, you've got to get a sense that this is going to be worth your time and effort, right? And they've got to design it so that you feel that early, right? And that they design it so that you have a little challenge. You don't start a game with a huge challenge. You start with something little, and so that you can conquer that one little stage, and then they give you the next stage and the next stage, and so the challenge is building, and you get hooked in, right? And you start to feel really confident, like I can do this. I want to keep playing this, right? And so that's when all of this starts happening, is because people are feeling fully engaged, they're optimistic about the outcomes, and they're feeling confident that it's going to go well. So what's really amazing is that the newest research on employee performance and well-being is exploring, for a long time they've been looking at single variables of what will move performance and well-being in our employees. And what they've realized is there's not going to be one single thing that moves employee performance and well-being. That really, it's a triumvirate, it's a triad. And that these things work together and influence each other. And so really moving someone up that ladder of performance and well-being, they've got to be feeling all three of these things. And so talking about facilitating in games and exercises is so exciting because it really is follows right in line with what we need to be doing as facilitators and in HR around performance and well-being of our colleagues and employees. So I think it's super exciting conversation. I refer to this triad as going deep because it's more than just engagement. I can't really be engaged unless I'm also optimistic and confident. So we're going to refer to it as going deep. So let's back up just a little bit. And you started to refer to it from our last exercise. What keeps people from going deep? Why do they not open up? Why in an exercise, we've all seen it, what does it look like? What's happening and why when you walk in and you see a game that's not going well?
Shy. To be shy.
Shy and
not being interested.
Lack of trust.
Oh, wow. That's so good. Insecurity. Insecure. I cannot spell, but I trust that you all will forgive me. What else? So fear.
Yeah, shame and fear.
Shame, fear, and you said something.
Rejection.
Rejection. Yes.
Basically, it's the fear of being rejected.
Yes, is one of the fears. Yes. And you wait. What did you say?
They don't see the meaning. Like
Yeah.
Also being in bad mood.
Yeah.
Their context.
Also the attitude, I know it all.
Oh, yes. So they're not willing to say,
To learn something.
I don't know it.
because
They're very vested, right, because they know it all. So that's, I mean, they're deeply, deeply afraid of being wrong, right? Huge. People, they're huge fear of being wrong or not looking good.
And also sometimes, if we are talking about the games, when you are unclear of what it is.
Yes.
When I'm unclear and I don't know, then I don't see the meaning and all the others.
Yes.
Clarity.
Yeah, clarity. Awesome. So in all of this, we've started to hit on it, but let's take it a little bit more deeply. Excuse me. What are the benefits? Why is it so important that people go deep? What happens when you go deep? What do you have access to that you don't? If you stay in looking good and being right,
you don't learn anything new.
right? New learning.
Can you repeat the question?
So what are the benefits of going deep?
More information,
Alternative, yeah.
Gain more confidence.
Yeah, you do gain confidence when you go deep.
Transformation happens.
Transformation happens, and
To other people or topic.
yep.
Becoming open for new things, for new information.
Yes. Oh, that's great. Yeah. And so there's also another, so the connections open to new ideas, great list. There's also a piece that what happens when we are slightly uncomfortable, when we're not in our pajamas, right? We're slightly out of our comfort zone. Yeah. It's referred to as emotional stake. That in that spot, when you're slightly uncomfortable, you're not terrified, right? So you're not going to completely unclear, but you're a little unclear. It engages your amygdala, that old ancient part of our brain. And so the piece that you're learning actually gets attached to the chemicals, the neurotransmitters of emotion. And so that when emotion and learning happen at the same time, you have far more access to that piece of information than you do if it's boring. So you have more connection, you have more ability to retrieve that information, and you have more ability to connect it to other pieces of information. So it's a much more it creates a much more dynamic learning, which I think is fascinating. I think that's so cool. So we really do want our participants to go deep, right? It's important. They're going to learn a lot more. The outcomes, we're going to look better because they're going to learn more, right? This is important. But how do you help people go deep in the exerciser game? We've all been there and led a group who did not come with us into the game, where they were sitting back resisting going deep, right? And that I mean, it makes my stomach start to hurt just thinking about leading a group who's not coming with me, right? What were we doing as facilitators? How were we acting? What were we thinking? What were we trying to do when we had a room of people who were not coming with us, who were not going deep? What do we do? Well, we blame them. Yeah. We don't say it out loud. We feel it.
We want to kind of
blame them.
Delegate the blame.
Yeah.
Maybe trying to attract them.
Or encourage them.
You start to
ask him questions.
First to understand what's the reason that they are not going.
Okay, you want to understand.
To understand, I'm going to try to engage them. Right for it.
Being honest. Explain the maximum.
So tell me more.
In order to
Engage.
engage.
Yeah?
We have to be honest ourselves.
Yeah.
Very honest.
Yes. Okay, but are we really being, once it's not going well, are we being really honest?
No.
Yeah, that's when it's going.
Maximum. We have to be honest.
Yeah. I'm going to put that down here. Because usually when it starts not going well, we're usually going to...
There's something wrong.
Yeah, there's something wrong. We're going to problem solving, right? Yeah. Hopefully we're not going to too much blaming. But we do go there. We go there. So what we want to talk about today is how do we more consistently walk in the room in such a way that we can bring the room with us. Okay, more consistently. It's not going to happen every time. And just like you said, we might start out being honest, and then we might lose it for a few minutes, but we can get it back if we know that's the goal and we know that it's within our power to at least control how we're thinking, right? We can't really control everybody else, but we can influence everybody else, okay? So what we're going for here is how do we more consistently bring everybody along into this great, deep pool of learning, okay? So what did it look like when it was going really well? When you were leading and everyone in the room was humming. I mean, it was just, they were learning, they were excited, they didn't need you anymore. What did it look like?
Satisfied.
You were smiling because you're satisfied. Tell me more.
Yeah, very proud.
Proud. What else? Confident. What are you doing, everybody? What are you all doing at this point? You're doing a lot more observing. You're enjoying it. You're enjoying it, and you're enjoying the people in the room, right? Like you're really... You love them. Oh, yes, you do, right? You so love them, right? It's just like in the when we were talking selfishly, right? It's the opposite of that, where you really love them because okay. So what else? You're not problem solving anymore, are you? What are you thinking about? Because you love them, what are you doing?
You're giving them more love.
You're giving them more love, and you want to know more. You're asking them questions. You really are deeply curious about them, right?
More attention.
Oh, that's so good. That's huge. And you're deeply curious. So, what we've described here are two different mindsets. This top one might be, you could describe it as, on one day it might be that you've got a defensive mindset. It might be a distracted mindset. There are different ways it might show up on that day. Here, we're talking about I'm going to call this deep curiosity. This is a mindset of deep curiosity, okay? And what's amazing about mindset is that we now have really good research. For decades, we've been talking about what we think impacts other people. And quite honestly, for me, I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe that if I was really feeling care for someone else, that they could feel it. But I just there's part of my brain that's too scientific. I was like, nah, it can't really be that easy. Well, so with do you know what fMRI is? Functional MRI. What it means is that now we can hook people up to machines, and we can be seeing what their brain is doing without having to slice their brain open, right? We used to have to wait till we slice their brain open. We don't have to do that anymore. So what they've done is they've taken symphony musicians and a symphony musician and a listener and put them both with fMRI, and they've asked the musician to play a piece of music and asked them to think about the technicality of the piece, the technical aspects of playing. And all the parts of their brain light up around technical learning and technical stuff, right? And then they measure what the listener's response, and so they have a response. Then they ask the musician to think about the emotion in the piece. And all the parts of their brain light up around emotion. Guess what? The listener, it's the same musician, the same piece of music. The listener, who has no idea that there's a difference in the way, that the musician's been told to play, thinking about something different.
Music is the same.
Music is the same. The listener responds completely from an emotional point of view. That's powerful. And that's something that we can use. That means that our modeling, our mindset that we put ourselves in before we walk in the room really does influence the room, right? That's amazing. So, athletes have a way of getting into the mindset that they need to be in before the beginning of a match. And it's embedded, it's called their ready position. And every sport has a different ready position, okay? I only play really one sport, and it's tennis. And I grew up playing. I've spent more hours on a tennis court than in any other location probably in my life. So, up on my toes, right? I can feel that. My weight's forward. I've got a hinge in my hips. My weight is just so. I'm holding my racket just like this. Every cell of my body is ready to play tennis. I'm not aware of any distraction, anything going on outside of the court. It's gone as soon as I get into this position, because I've practiced it so many times, right? No distraction. Not only that, so my body's ready, right? This is physically where I need to be to respond to a forehand or a backhand. But also, my mind has been practiced, so now I'm instantly in a winning mindset. I'm ready to win. I'm going to take you out, right? That is not where I was when I was sitting right here. So, I want to help present an option for a ready position that we can use before we walk in to facilitate. So, I invite you to close your eyes. To help evoke a state of genuine curiosity, try to recall yourself at 5 years old. You're like an empty cup open to be filled. Think about the intense curiosity and interest in the world of a 5-year-old. Put yourself in the vortex of that curiosity. When that 5-year-old asks a question, his or her entire self seeks the answer. And when the answer comes, another question immediately arises. The questions and answers tumble together in the delight of discovery. So open your eyes. What did that feel like?
Fragile.
Fragile. Oh, interesting.
Happiness. Motivated. Freedom.
Motivated. Happiness. Yeah.
Freedom.
Freedom. Oh, I like that.
There's a love for life.
Love for life. That's awesome.
Exploration.
Exploring.
Yeah.
Yep. Power. Wait, who said that? Oh, I love that. That's cool. Yeah, definitely. Safety. Yeah, you feel that. You know that 5-year-old feels safe if they're asking all those questions, right? Earlier, a mom said she thought of her daughter during that time, and she felt so proud that the 5-year-old wanted to hear her answers to the question. You know, that the 5-year-old was coming to her. I thought that was really beautiful. So before you walk in to a facilitation, you can pull up your 5-year-old, either your 5-year-old self or the image of that 5-year-old on the card. That is one of my 3 children. We have this great story. A plumber came to work. She sat on the edge of the bathtub for an hour and a half and asked him questions for an hour and a half while the plumber is working. The plumber came out. He was like bright with light. He was so happy because he got to talk about his favorite thing in the whole world, which was plumbing, water, where it goes, where it came from, every question you could imagine about water and where it goes. So he was alive. And my daughter just was skipping. She was so excited. She'd had a great morning, totally entertained by asking every question she could think of. So that's my 5-year-old. That's where I go before I walk in to facilitate. So I hope you have a 5-year-old you can draw up. Now, how do we keep that 5-year-old, that deep curiosity once we get in the room? Because all of a sudden now we're interacting with other people, right? And we may or may not have like a co-facilitator. I frequently work with someone else, and that's a different dynamic going on, right? So I've got someone who's helping me with the time on this. And so improvisation, does everyone improvisational comedy, which is where there's no script and the actors get up. And so I've been using this book for years, but because I was going to do this workshop, I thought, okay, let me go try improvisational comedy. So I've been taking improv classes. Let me tell you, there is nothing more terrifying than getting up on stage without a script, right? It's terrifying. But it's very similar to walking in to facilitate because we don't know what people are going to say. We don't know what the questions are going to be. I don't know if you're going to understand my English. I don't know if you're going to reject the word facilitate, right? I don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of similarity. So, from improvisational comedy, there are 3 big principles that Jacobson and Rudy use to help us stay in this area of deep curiosity. And those are total support, go big, and yes and. So what is total support? In improvisational comedy, total support means that no matter who is on the stage, we have to make sure that the person on the outside edge of the stage is just as important as the person who's speaking right now. Because there's an audience. You can't have someone just standing there looking like a piece of furniture, like they don't belong, right? You've got to have everybody all in. Of course, that's what we do when we facilitate, right? We've got to make sure we've got the entire room with us. We've got to make eye contact with everybody and bring them along. I've got to wear my glasses. So what else does total support mean? What do you think? Let's talk about what might that mean in terms of facilitation.
Making sure that the conversation is not monopolized by some person.
Yeah.
And vice versa, that people who want to speak, they can speak.
Also answering all the questions that are, like trying to answer all the questions.
Yeah, hearing.
Them to ask questions.
What did you say?
Helping them to ask questions.
If I say elicit, inviting.
Concentrate on each member of the group.
Yeah, everyone.
And smiling all the time.
What? Smile. Yep.
And also allowing them to be who they are.
Okay, I'm actually going to put that.
By allowing yourself being who you are, allowing them as well.
Oh, you're so good. Who?
Criticizing, but in the sense that like each opinion has right to exist.
Yeah.
Even if it's something which is not like the group thinks in another way, but even there is even one person who is thinking, who has an opposite opinion, still respect, you should show that you at least respect.
Yeah, and there's room for all, there's room for everybody to have, for whatever your opinion is, right? So you started in, go big does not mean be a big, ugly American. It does not mean be the loudest person in the room, necessarily, unless that's what's needed. But going big means showing up with your best self. And it means allowing and encouraging everyone's best self, right? And others' best self. And so being who they are, who we really are, and inviting that in from everyone, right? It also has to do with being alert and aware of everything that's going. So it's a lot about extreme versions of you. If you're on that stage and there's no script, you have to really hear what everyone says. You can't miss a word because it might change the meaning, and then you start acting as if this is about playing house and it's really about playing fireman. Everyone's going to be confused, right? So big alertness and big awareness, deep listening. Again, this all plays back into being deeply curious, right? All right, so yes and. Yes, please.
And one thing, is this something with go big, being a learner yourself when you are facilitating? Because in a lot of situations we think that like facilitators are thinking that people are coming to learn from them, but it's vice versa as well.
Right. So, and that comes back also to the honest, genuine curiosity, right? Oh, and being open, and that is probably the most important thing in facilitation, is that you're not coming in as a knower. You're coming in as a learner. Right? That's key.
There should be also 200% interest in the topic.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, I can be a good facilitator in terms of different skills, but I can be a good facilitator in this topic, but not in another topic. I mean, the knowledge of topic, and I mean, in HR field or music field, I can be a good facilitator in the field of HR, but not that good in music if I don't like music, for example.
Okay, so
I don't know.
all right, so yeah. So I'm going to challenge you on that. Okay, I'm going to challenge you on that. So I would actually argue that if it's about my interest, then I'm not really 100% there to hear whatever you are thinking about and talking about. And it makes it much harder as a facilitator if I'm not intrinsically interested in the topic. It makes it more challenging for me. Yeah? Yeah, okay, yeah. Then totally.
You should be interested in it.
Yeah.
You should be interested to listen, to hear anything about HR. But maybe,
and you just have to find a way to get interested, even when it's that topic that otherwise might bore you. Yeah.
So it's
and
like
that's challenging.
Authenticity. If you come to the group, you need to also bring your curiosity to the group.
Yeah, and so how do you
it's about being honest. I mean, as you are going to be honest, there should be a real interest in the topic, so they see that.
Okay, so how
I play, they will see that I'm playing.
Okay, question. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think you're right. So how do you get around that if you're the facilitator? If it really is a topic you're not interested in, how do you get around that?
Just don't do that.
Well, so yeah, but
sometimes you are in a situation
where you have to
replace your colleague, for example, in a topic you don't like.
Right. So
it can happen.
Well, or you make it not about that subject. You make it about the people.
Yeah.
Right. You can refocus it, and you're thinking about, okay, I don't care about growing corn in Iowa, but this man is fascinated in growing corn in Iowa. That is crazy that he is that interested and passionate about growing corn. Tell me, I want to know more about why you're passionate about that,
maybe
right?
You're missing something, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe I'm not, but I'm interested in the fact that he's passionate, right? I'm not necessarily interested in growing corn. Yeah, so I can turn it around, right?
You can get inspiration from that.
Yeah, right?
Maybe after that you will be interested.
Right, well, or maybe not, right? Like I may never really care, and I may not really remember what he says about growing corn, but I'm going to remember that this man was really passionate, right? So, I don't know. That's just a thought. Just a thought. Okay, so now we're going to play a game, and we're going to play it pretty fast. Yep. And so, yes, and what we're doing here in improv, this is about building on what somebody just said. It's affirmative, right? Yes. If you're on the stage playing improv, you cannot say no.
Or but.
Or but. It's the only rule in improv. You're not allowed to do it. And you will be, after the skit, if you have said it, which you're new, you do it, you get called out. Like, that's the one thing you'll get called out on. So, yes, and. Because you're building. You've got to build on what the last person said. All right? It's also forward movement. It's taking the conversation forward. And what you're doing is listening for potential. Okay? So, we've got another exercise. This is going to be similar to what we did before, but there are going to be two big differences. So, I'm going to need you not to rush ahead because it's going to start like we did before, but you don't really know what's coming. So, don't go too far ahead of me, okay? So, we're going to start by standing up and drifting to open spaces. Okay, stop and find a new partner. Everybody have a new partner? Okay. Did we lose somebody? Oh, no, here we've got a single person. Oh, no.
We're just switching partners.
Okay, switching partners. So we have a single. Can you join up and you'll be an observer with this group? You can join right here. So we'll have A, B, and C on this group, and you can whoever is C can act as the observer. Okay? So we have raise your hand if you're an A this time. How about we have different, if you were an A last time, don't be an A again. No. Okay, so Okay, well then choose who's going to be it this time. Okay, great. So we have our A's and our B's. So again, our A's are going to be talking about a project. You're going to have 1 minute to describe the project. Listeners, I want you to be listening for potential. All right? Listeners, keep your mouths closed. But be listening for potential. Okay? And you have 1 minute. Are our A's ready with their project? You ready? Okay, go. 1 minute. Okay, stop. All right. Now what we're going to do is B, our listener, is going to get a chance. But what we're going to do now is play something called ping pong, verbal ping pong. So the listener is now going to start with the phrase, yes, and the potential I hear in that is. So, for instance, I was the speaker and I was talking about developing a new workshop that I'm going to deliver in Armenia. And the listener says, yes, and the potential I hear in that is when you come to Armenia, I want to introduce you to my friend who makes games. And then the speaker says, yes, and what I hear, the potential I hear in that is that the three of us, you, me, and this friend of yours, can work on turning my workshop into a game together. And then the listener says, yes, and the potential I hear in that is, and then the speaker says, yes, and the potential I hear in that is, okay, so it goes back and forth, all right? So it starts with the listener. Listener gets to start responding to the project you just heard about. Yes, and the potential I hear in that is. And then back and forth. So we have a minute. Go. Back and forth. Back and forth. Okay, great. Stop, everybody. Thank you. All right, everybody have a seat. Have a seat, everybody. So did you all... Did you all notice a change in the energy?
Yes.
Yeah? Why might there have been a change in energy? Yeah, why?
Because we're engaged.
You were engaged. Yeah. Why? What?
We were working.
You were working. So I was like...
Opportunity to know your opinion.
We were talking about
potential, and you got to share your opinion, right? You were sharing, you were hearing potential.
Discovering new opportunities. New ideas. Also, your idea is supported and developed.
observer. What did you notice when the listeners couldn't speak, but was there something different in what they were doing?
What I noticed that both sides have to go deeper to understand the whole meeting and to continue conversation, to continue discussion. And during these questions, every part was very engaged to the discussion, and they developed more developed project maybe, and they developed the steps to continue that project.
Yeah.
And something new was born during that discussion.
Oh, I love that.
Besides that, I felt the energy and everything was, everyone was actively talking.
Involved, really involved in that project.
Finding something in common.
Common interests. Very, very cool.
And looking forward mindset, like
yes.
we were looking to find a potential, not concentrating on your own thoughts or on the barriers.
Yeah.
Just like in the looking forward mindset.
Yeah.
As if it's
You
already
listen to
happening.
support, you listen to help.
Yeah.
Somehow.
And no judgment, right? Yeah. Even if somebody said something that made no sense, right? It leads to the next idea, right? So there really is no bad idea, because even if it's an idea you wouldn't operationalize, you wouldn't actually put into action, it's okay because it stimulated somebody to think of the next idea.
In our case, we already created a plan.
A plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing.
I think next
year
we'll implement it.
Okay.
Even the start with yes, of course, it is very good, it's good. It makes positive way, positive path to continue the project.
Yeah.
Even that small single word change the path of the discussion.
Yep. And so where might you use this in your real life? I understand you're not going to actually play at verbal ping pong. Yes, the potential I hear in that is, but
the way we perceive the world and friends and family, and also while working with colleagues or while being a facilitator, it's just the way our mindset. We can just train our mindset to be like this. Yes, and at the potential I see.
I love it. So I challenge everybody in the room, see if you can use yes and in a conversation today with somebody who, don't tell them what you're doing, just yes and. See if you can create that kind of energy just with a stranger.
It's also very helpful in negotiations.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes you can just, it's kind of a trick, like when you are saying yes and the person, the only thing he or she hears is yes. But sometimes continuation, it can be no. But I mean, when you are saying yes, it's a psychological effect.
Yeah, it's a huge psychological effect. You're accepted, you're valued. Yes, you are hearing them, right? It goes back to what Ralph Yarikian was talking about, where this really helps people feel heard, right? It is actually way more than just saying, I don't know, something nice that doesn't go deeper, right? This, you really value them. You're engaging with them in this building of ideas.
That's important.
Yeah.
Wanted to continue the process.
I would even modify it a bit. In the beginning, I would even train my brain to say, what I love about your project is...
Yeah. I love that.
Then you really concentrate on what you love about the project, and you kind of acknowledge and recognize that, and that's very important for the person who is kind of giving away his own ideas, and that's a good feedback.
It's very powerful. And from you, saying what I love about it would be so natural.
Yes.
Right? That would just be such a natural thing. It may not be, those may not be the words that would be most natural, but somehow saying yes, the word yes is natural for everybody, right? And for you, go all in, say what I like, and that, me too, right? Now, I have had to dial back and know when I can say what I love about that is, and when I can't use that, right? Because sometimes that can get, people are not used to be, here's the thing, people are not used to being heard like this. This is really powerful, really powerful. So, we've already started using these questions. These are the questions in the book. There are a million lists of how to debrief an interactive experience. The reason I like this list is because it really does take you through the 5 parts of the cycle of learning. You start with of course, the experience, and then you move straight into a yes or no hook. So you get them to make a little commitment. Yes or no. That's all I'm asking you to answer. Are you willing to say yes or no? Did you notice X? Yes. Okay, then I've got you, right? So that's why the first one is not an open-ended question, right? And of course, you're getting them to start describing or noticing. Then you move them very quickly into starting to interpret. The most important word here is might. Might. I'm going to give you an interpretation of why that might have happened. The reason I want to say might is because I want to start opening you up to being willing to hear other people's interpretation, right? That we can have multiple interpretations and they're potentially all right. Yeah? So this makes room for flexibility of thinking as we start interpreting. Then we go into the generalizing. How do I take what happened in this exercise, this awkward exercise of acting distracted while you're listening, and then then listening for potential? How do we take that back into the workplace? How do we take that back into our real life and generalize that information? Important steps in learning for any game or exercise, right? And then applying it. Where specifically could you use that, right? So they're very easy to learn. The other piece of this that is why I recommend using this particular list of questions is because it leaves room for an advanced facilitator to direct the topic here. Did you notice what? So I'm getting a bit confused between this workshop and the last one. That was just, moments before you walked in. I think I asked you questions about feelings and emotions at one point. Did you notice a different feeling or a different emotion, right? So what I wanted us to talk about here was really, I wanted you to be thinking about and reflecting on your emotions and how it made you feel and how it might make somebody else feel when they're in that same situation, right? But I could have asked, if we were doing a team building exercise, I could have asked, did you notice how long it took for an individual to step up and take the lead, right? So that could have been my did you notice, right? If I wanted us to talk about and explore and reflect on leadership. Now, just to your point, it's not that I know the answers to all these questions, it's just I'm setting the topic area. What are we going to explore together, right? So that's why I really like this set of questions, and that's why we've already started using them. One of my favorite ways to use these questions that isn't covered in the book is using the research about confidence. And how do we give feedback to grow confidence? We focus on the sustained efforts that someone has been using in order to have that they've created a positive outcome, right? So here, I can say something like, did you notice that something came very easily for you while doing the exercise? And you might say, yes, so what was that? So you're really good at using your face and your body language to communicate openness, right? So that's started to tell me why it might have happened, because that's one of your strengths. Then do you use that at work? Where else might you use it at work? Right? So you're already using it one place. Are there other places you could apply that? Your strengths. So, and what happens there is you're really helping people to, as we know, if you just give somebody a compliment, they reject it. It really has no meaning for people. If you help them understand their strengths more deeply and understand how to use their strengths, then you're giving them access to real, lasting confidence. So, that's why I titled the workshop Facilitating for Confidence. That's how I love to use these questions. But I don't use it that way every time. It depends on what we're going for. Okay? Much better on time this time than last time. I am learning as we go. It's all good, right? So let's go back. What we've been talking about really is to drive more consistently, because we're good at our jobs, right? We wouldn't still have them if we weren't able to do this pretty regularly, right? We get good outcomes from when we're facilitating or leading a group, right? But the idea is, how do we do it more consistently, and how do we take it even deeper, right? So I know you all are already experts, and it's just a question of, can we go that extra level? And so if we can bring that deep curiosity, if we can ground in that not knowing, that 5-year-old, our ready position of deep curiosity, that empty cup ready to be filled, and we can bring the total support, the going big, and yes and, along with our strength questions, then what we really do get is people opening up and they're open to learning. They've left their fear spot, they've left needing to be right, and they've opened up to new learning and in extending the confidence. And what they're really finding is that this triumvirate is where the increase in performance and well-being happens. And I'll go back to that sheet, because I think that's hugely exciting. That what we're doing, loving the people in the room and wanting to hear from them, is one of the fundamentally most powerful things we can bring to the table to help them and help our companies. I think that's so cool. So, any questions? What are you left with? Yeah.
My question is, how do you as a facilitator, because we are all human, when you have like a low energy and not a very good mood, you are going to facilitate in an hour or in, I don't know, just now the group is coming. How do you bring yourself into this resourcefulness and the energy back?
It's hard, isn't it? It's really hard. It's really hard.
Especially when you have several sessions during the day.
Yeah.
Same sessions.
Exactly. I'm there. I'm in it. I'm in it,
so
right?
The other group don't feel that it's the third time
Yeah.
you're saying the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and also, and that's that one thing, and it's sometimes the days that you just don't love people.
Yeah.
You just don't want to see anyone. It happened, and you just wake up, and you need to face them, and you need to give love, but you don't feel love inside. So what do you do?
That's such a great question.
That's your job.
Well, yeah, but you know, I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of examples in my own life of when I've had that experience, and when so 90% of the times when I've been in that position, I haven't shown up the way I wanted to show up, right? But I'm thinking about when did I manage to find that deep curiosity and that love? And I'd say usually it had to do with me being open about the fact that I was in that spot. Even when I was dealing with employees and actually what ended up, so just last month I was facilitating and I had a co-facilitator and somebody asked a question and I just gave the answer. I mean, just like talking head. And I was like, and I turned to my co-facilitator and I was like, okay, I'm going to stop talking. I am just not going to say anything because I have no idea where that came from or why. I thought I was in a good mood. I thought I had it all together, but I wasn't. And so, and literally, I turned to my because he looked at, his eyes were like, this big, like, and I was like, okay, you're on, because I need to keep my mouth shut for a while. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth next. And so total support, knowing that he had my back, and really sharing that, and literally, I thought I was in a good mood. I thought I was there totally, and it came out, and I was like, oh, not what I wanted to say, right? It wasn't anything bad, but it just was not coming from that place of where I wanted to be coming from, right? And so we laughed about it, and it changed the energy in the room. And then thinking about,
were you like open with the group as well?
I've done that before as well. It depends on how long I've worked with that group or not. Yeah, and it depends. But think how much trust it builds when someone actually says, "Okay, guys, I am here for you, but I'm having a tough day, and I know we all have those tough days, and help me out here," right? I don't know what we say. Have you all had an experience? What have you all done?
That's tough.
Making myself, for example, being beautiful.
Yeah, right? That can help.
Trying to do some tricks to get some more self-confidence.
Yeah.
One is like being very beautiful, like in terms yokes.
Yeah.
The other is it can be very funny, but I smile. I know that it's funny, but when even you are in a bad mood, and independently it's about facilitating or no, when you smile, your body feels that something good is happening, and the energy starts.
It does.
To come. Or sometimes I call to like best friends or family and just say that I'm good and that you love me.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So having those tricks, like
sometimes the fourth version is just we fail.
It does happen. In fact, and you know what? It's okay. We fail sometimes. We don't get everybody. We're never going to always get everybody to go deeply with us, right? It's
or encouraging yourself. For example, I will buy a candy for you if you do it. Do this, okay? Well done. You did your
just keep it to 2 more hours.
Yeah.
Once I had an experience of having the same session 3 times during a day.
Yeah.
And for each group, like for you maybe today, you have to be as fresh as like it's the first, and you are saying that for the first time because you need to give the energy and the positive mood to them. So during the third session, but it's very good that we were 2. Like we were each other. Sometimes I was like down and he was like, and then we're helping each other. But it's sometimes it's difficult. Yes, if it's gonna be tough, it's better to have someone next to you.
Yeah, I love co-facilitating. Plan B.
Yeah.
And I have started really trying to observe, for me, or not. But so I wanted to open you up. I wanted to establish some trust with you. And there's also reciprocity, that if I give you a little gift, then you're much more likely to be willing to play the game with me, because on some little level, you feel like you owe me something. Yeah. But really, I just want you to know I care about you, right? And that I'm making eye contact with each one of you as you're walking in the room. Because it's all for us to get the most out of it, right?
I guess in an Asian world, everybody wants the chocolate one.
Yeah.
That's a tough job.
Yeah.
For example, on my desk, there is a big almond, like black plate.
Yeah.
And usually it's full of chocolate, different kinds of chocolate. So everyone knows that. It's in the morning.
And they come in.
Yeah, and on the second crisis, it's coming close to 4 or 5 o'clock. So at that time, I have some other cookies.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And think about it. You've got to read on what's happening in the company.
That we are saying that your salary will not be increased. Somehow it's like it's helping because at least we are giving them chocolate.
But that's really brilliant because you can know what's happening in your company because when things aren't going well, they're coming to get chocolate, right? That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day, when you try all the methods, but there is someone or two people that are not with you, they're not engaged, can you talk to them afterwards?
Mm-hmm. You must.
Okay.
You must. It's total support. You can't leave anybody out, right? We can't. That's our promise.
But what if at the result, like at the end, we found out that it's really a very closed person, and it's for the other cases, for other group, exercises or games or trainings, it's better to leave them alone because sometimes there can be that kind of people very close. You are really afraid to go too much deep because there can be lots of traumas or I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So how do you...
Not very often that kind of people,
right?
But sometimes we can have them.
So the first question that comes to mind is that I want to know, is that person just reserved and quiet? And do they perceive themselves as participating and, right? Like, or are they in a bad place? Right? So really coming not with any story. Like I have to make sure I don't bring any story to the conversation, right? I have to come just as that empty cup. I can't be blaming them in my head. I can't say it's their fault. In fact, I'm better off if I assume that something I did didn't work for them, right? If I'm having trouble stopping blaming, then I try and go to, okay, well, what might I have done that didn't work for them, right? And so really coming honestly and openly, and this is the number one thing. I mean, it is so, and it comes back to that, we wrote it down and underlined it. It's the learner mind. And I just worked last year, and it's part of why I wanted to do this workshop and why I've been working on this for the last 6 months is because I frequently am co-facilitating with a brand new facilitator, someone who's never facilitated before, a business person who comes from the top of their field who's now facilitating for the first time. And I just worked with a gentleman who we had talked about facilitating and listening and not knowing and empty cup. And before the first day, he said, all right, I've gone through all the resumes, all the CVs, and this woman, she's a flake. Do you know the word flake? Doesn't know what she wants, changes her mind all the time, has ineffective, couldn't possibly be useful to anybody, right?
From CV?
Yes, from the CV. And I was shocked. I was shocked. And then he says, I am really good at reading CVs and knowing people. Like, so he was very vested in how good he was at reading CVs and getting it right. Mm-hmm. And he brought it up multiple days in a row. And I was like, we've got a fundamental problem here. Because he was so vested in being right and being good at reading a CV and knowing who's going to walk in the door, that he couldn't let go of that image of this woman. This woman took care of her family and raised, she supported her parents and her siblings. This woman had some flighty, flaky behaviors, but fundamentally this woman was a rock. You could lean on her. You could depend on her. And he didn't leave room for that. And so that learner's mind, that not knowing, that deep curiosity, and when there's somebody that you need to talk to, us making sure that we don't go with a story. And that's hard. It's hard. Yep. Time's up. Okay, I've got to give it to Love. I have to give it to Love. And there were so many really, really good questions. And you brought us home. You asked the last question. Thanks, everybody. And I don't know if they're taking feedback, have evaluations, but I really would love to know what worked, what didn't work, what you wanted to spend more time on, less time on. So if there's an evaluation, please fill it out, or you can tell me. I'm glad to hear it. Or you can email me. My contact information is on the card. Okay. Yep. Thanks, everybody. And don't forget to use yes and in a conversation today. And your chocolates, right.
Let me put the flyers.
Oh, great. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
So beautiful.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm so glad. Thank you very much for sharing. I really loved hearing your thoughts.
I want to add one thing.
Yes.
About the 5 year. I've got 3 kids. The middle one is already almost 8 years, but it's a boy. He always recalls situations and stories which happened